with a healthcare campus, you get all of the additional healthcare services, everything that Mr. Pidcock just walked through, provided, takes community input. We have to have PennDOT, we have to have the school district, anybody else affected, but we think there's a community solution here. And we would preserve the tree line, we would add the buffer, and we would have the walking path. We think there's a way to have a both and solution. Can you hand that to? So this is the checklist. As you think about farm field, that's temporary. You know what the traffic's like today, right?
Thank you, sir.
With residential, none of the healthcare services, you get additional traffic, and you get none of the improvements that Mr. Pidcock just walked through. With the healthcare campus, you get the health services, and we help create a solution relative to traffic in this corridor. President Marks, that concludes our formal presentation. We're available for questions, however, whatever protocol you prefer that we follow.
Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go down the list one by one. If everyone, please be thoughtful and stay within the three minutes. If there's additional questions, we'll certainly entertain them. I understand it's very hard to get things in under 3 minutes sometimes. But be civil, be patient, and we'll work together and we'll get through this. Yeah, the way we're going to format this is when you come up for your 3 minutes, ask your question, then the gentleman from the hospital can counter that, and we'll try to keep it within the 3 minutes. If you have additional questions, we'll entertain the additional questions.
Anthony Kopak.
Mr. Kopak? If you could please grab the microphone, identify yourself.
And your address.
Name and address clearly.
Hi, Anthony Kopak, 3763 Dogwood Drive. Okay, question is? Okay, well, you're keeping the tree line, that's great. The Water Authority property. But your extra 75-foot buffer here doesn't include the back of my residence. What's the possibility of this road jogging a little bit to the north? I mean, it's great. You got trees on your side of future development, but I got Mechanicsville Road 2.0 now behind my house.
Right. Let me turn to this one.
Sure.
This road, the bypass, will deflect to the north as quickly as it can. However, what we have to connect to is Lehigh Street.
Yeah, I understand. Now you
All
got to
right.
get past the retention pond before you can jog. I understand that. But
Well,
this shows it coming down past Dogwood Circle before you get your additional 75-foot buffer.
Right. It's a diagram. I understood from our discussion Thursday night, we see all.
The board wasn't there Thursday night, so they need to hear it too.
They do.
Okay.
They do. So as quickly as we can deflect the Orange Road to the north, we understand the benefits of it, and we shall do so. In addition, and you and I spoke about this on Thursday, and that's the point of number 8, is that we believe that there is additional buffering that can be installed in here. And it's not on our property. We would have to talk to the WTA about it, but we would install it, we would maintain it, so that would be more than what you have now.
All right, because right now I got buffer W2A property and Mechanicsville Road 2.0, the way that stacks up. And I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak. I mean, the board's got to decide, does the township benefit better from a developer coming in here and doing much of nothing but making his money and getting out? Or does the township benefit more from what the hospital is presenting? I mean, it could be either way, depending on how that road goes behind my house. But if the developer comes in, well, you're gonna sell the WTA property to them too, and then that'll be their land. And would I be correct in saying I could have somebody's backyard 25 feet from my backyard then?
I guess you could, but the reason we're here and the reason you're looking at a plan that looks like this is because we want to be here.
Right, I understand.
And we're willing to do this. And do we think that the world looks different without if it's a residential development? It'll look very different.
Okay, well, my concern is your bypass road jogging further north. And a lot of your problems with Mechanicsville Road at 145 is people stop and let people out at McDonald's when the light's green and you should be going through the green light. That's the problem. That's just common sense.
Jody, and I'm sorry, I can't make out the last name. The penmanship is as bad as mine.
If you could state your name and address, please.
Sure. Jody Mismer, 3367 Kings Road. So I understand that you made the comment, Mr. Doherty, right? You made the comment that we're an aging population here in Whitehall Township, and this would benefit our aging population, which speaks to the lack of a tax base if we have an aging population. If we were to put in residential, we may actually gain. I understand, I was here last week. You don't have to rebut on the 37 cents on the other piece. Got that. But we do lose $308,000 times, if we look at 154 homes times $2,000, that's the recreational fee per residential. Is that correct? So we would get $308,000 into our recreation system with 154 homes. So that's a differentiation there. I do have a question. The public road, are we now responsible for maintaining that? The bypass? Public road, yeah. Okay, so you don't pay taxes, but we will be responsible for maintaining that road. Okay. Okay? All right. So the other piece is that, I said this the last time I was here, but I think it's important because you also mentioned, I know you weren't here, about access. And you referenced a study. And you referenced a study that individuals who have more access to care closer to home, would you be able to describe what the closer to home was? What's the mileage that was determined? Because, and here's why I'm asking, we have Muhlenberg 7 miles away, Cedar Crest 9 miles away, St. Luke's Allentown 5.8 miles away, and St. Luke's Bethlehem 11 miles away. And we have 2 urgent cares less than 2 miles away. So it's, when we talk about close to care, I'm interested in the study and what the definition was of closer to care.
Closer to care in many of the studies and in working with our physicians is typically measured in drive time as opposed to miles. And patients' behavior in terms of decision-making changes at 12 minutes.
So I could get to 3 of them in less than 12 minutes. And if I was in an ambulance, I would get there even more quickly. Okay. So my last piece is just simply that this is an area that, as a township, we're very fortunate to have access to care. We have lots of access to care. And the other pieces that you put on here are projections. You project that maybe we could have a crosswalk. They didn't say they were putting one in. Maybe we qualify for a crosswalk. Maybe. Maybe we get those 3 green dots. It's all projection. That's exactly what I said.
We talked about on the crosswalks, it has to meet the PennDOT standards.
Correct.
I shook my head on the green dots for signalization. We're committing to the signalization.
Okay. But my point is that, so we've got a public road we maintain, you don't pay taxes. We're forfeiting $308,000 for no residents.
That's inaccurate, but I understand.
I'm sorry, my math is inaccurate?
Your math is inaccurate.
154 times 2,000?
Except we're not eliminating all of the homes in the north. So they would generate a recreation fee, wouldn't they?
So,
There are 154 homes that come out of the entirety of the.
correct, how many come in the back?
102 are in the HCO district.
Okay, so we're losing,
So then the math, I think, would account for the 52 homes
that we're assuming are being made.
that remain in the north, and they would generate a recreation fee, wouldn't they?
Sir, yes. Yeah.
So that's the adjustment I think you might consider.
You're very condescending, sir. Very. So that's really all I have, just to bring to light that we are going to have taxes, that we have to maintain a road. We have the other responsibilities as well. And the reality is that we have access to care. So you keep telling us we do not. You told us we were aging. We need tax space. People are leaving. This is not a win for us as a township.
Name and address, please.
3303 Musselman Court, Karen,
name.
Karen Poe Shefko. I live at Fellowship, so I don't live here, but even with this bypass, and I appreciate all the work that you've done, even with this bypass, now these folks, in my mind, are going to have traffic in the front and in the back of their house. The issue about how many homes are going to be going in up there, again, as someone said, you're going to be approving building based on limitations of traffic. So there are limitations of traffic. I don't know that this bypass addresses all of the issues. In my mind, a lot of the traffic on Mechanicsville is school traffic. And someone mentioned at some point, couldn't the school exit onto, and you don't have to answer this because I don't know, I only have 3 minutes. Couldn't the school exit onto 145 from the back of the school to try to alleviate some of the traffic on Mechanicsville? I don't know, that's just something. It's not, I know it's not all school traffic, but when the school traffic is there, it's impossible. I appreciate the need. I'm just going to float this suggestion. Keep this at phase 1 only. Maintain the open space. Have Mechanicsville entrance be emergency entrance only for ambulances that are coming down Rural Road, so that that would give these folks a break. Try to work something out with the school to try to get offload some of their traffic someplace else. And if you need a phase 2, put it up here. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Beth Quigley. Name and address, please.
As you just said, my name is Beth Quigley. I live at 3858 Rosewood Lane. And I don't really have any questions. I just have some comments about what LVHN is planning on doing. I'm all for leaving the tree line intact with the buffer. You're working with PennDOT to mitigate the traffic problems that, like as you've said, have already existed. I am not for 154 homes being put in my backyard. LVHN will never shoot off fireworks. There will be no barking dogs. There will be no large parties. I don't want houses directly in my backyard. And also what I haven't heard anyone mention is the increased burden on the school system that these 154 schools will cause. That's all I have. Thank you.
Answer to that question, from a school board meeting I was at, we meet quarterly with the school board, 3 commissioners and the school board and the superintendent. The school board said they can handle another 600 students from kindergarten to 12 with the building, and as we all know, there's new buildings going in all the time over there. They told us they can handle 600 more students, just so that there's an answer to that question.
Ken Snyder.
They're calling you out on it now.
Okay, guys.
He actually only has 30 seconds left.
Name and address, Mr. Schneider.
Ken Snyder, 4272 Abigail Lane. So there's two phases we're going through. One is the plan, and one is the overlay. The plan can be handled during the planning session when you work your way through. The overlay that is being done is being based on what they can do with this plan. So all changes can go, even though we see it today, we have to recognize that could be something totally different by the time it gets to a plan. That's not it, that's not the gospel truth. What I see there for the bypass, I personally think it's a plus, but it causes a lot of problems with it. So here's my questions. I had up 2 pages of them, so I'm gonna kind of work it through as fast as I can. Does the group know how they got this property? It was donated to them. There was 2 parcels that are donated to them. The parcel that adjoins you is by St. Luke's, is that correct? Yes. Okay. You have taken upon yourself to contact the Water Authority and the cemetery. The parcel that St. Luke's owns has a direct outlet at Municipal Drive. So my question is, why have you not contacted those guys to work in cooperation for your outlet to be on Municipal Drive? This is not going to my 2 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, the connection, this is the St. Luke's piece.
Yes, it
about
is.
25 acres. The connection to Municipal Drive is just a third connection to 145.
The point, I understand that, but the point being, connection onto a 6-lane highway, 405, and connection over here, you took it really quick to work everything on this side of the table, but did you reach out to St. Luke's and say, hey, guys, are you willing to give us an easement or extra ground so we can have a direct route onto 145 that will allow this traffic to go both southbound and northbound, because this one is only going to allow you to go southbound?
We don't see a great benefit compared, because this connection at Lehigh Street gives us that.
Okay.
This simply creates a third connection to MacArthur Road, and the board, Mr. Snyder, the board has made very clear to us that they didn't want the plan to rely exclusively on connections to MacArthur Road. So we are not doing that. That's the motivation behind it.
The board did make crystal clear that they would prefer to see something at Municipal Drive. Am I correct?
That's
So
correct.
you may be right, but that's also a
I
statement.
asked the question many times when it was in
Yes.
front of Legal and Legislative Committee, had they reached out, and I'll quote, to their cousins, and find out if we can get Municipal Drive? And the answer was, I believe, no. There was no cooperation.
As it stands today, that's their property. And we've had an emissary who reached out and nothing came back, so.
Okay, I understand.
I asked that same
Traffic
question last week,
standpoint,
Mr. Schneider.
It's not a
Barbara,
plus.
what?
I asked that same question last
Oh,
week, if they'd
okay.
reach out to their competitor.
Why is this not being considered a zoning change versus an overlay? Because under the overlay arrangement, an overlay is designed that the overlay process will enhance or improve the underlying zoning. Our underlying zoning is an R2, which is residential. Under an overlay, I would like to know, where is that definition being applied as compared to a zoning change? In one of your meetings, your zoning officer stated that he considered this to be spot zoning. In his opinion, it could be called that. I don't know what our solicitor is saying, but my question is, if this would go to court, how would that be handled, and why is it being called an overlay versus zoning?
My personal opinion is it's a very gray area. I won't say, I don't know, I'm going to defer to Mr. Gross. Yeah.
It's here as an overlay because that's what the hospital petitioned to do.
Right.
They made a petition to make a change to the township ordinance,
Okay.
and that's what they petitioned to
So
do,
then
and
as
they're
a-
allowed to do
I
that.
agree. As a solicitor, the overlay zoning definition is that it is supposed to enhance the underlying arrangement, which is an R2. So you can explain to me, or someone explain to me, how this plan qualifies as an overlay, because I don't see anything here that enhances the R2 underneath it. That's my question.
Well, yeah. Again, that's not a legal question, right? It's a question of fact, as lawyers would say, and at this point, this is their proposal. The ordinance is far from final, just what I heard tonight. there are going to need to be multiple changes, and then
That's okay.
that's ultimately for the board to decide whether that's an enhancement
I don't want to
after
lose
hearing.
my 3 minutes here. I got enough problems. Okay. The other question is, your plan up here says that you are reserving additional land for additional housing, but you have not provided access for that because in your plan, your overlay gives no access to the remaining 20-some acres because of access. So it really can't be developed because you basically landlocked it based on your plan, correct? That's right. So it isn't really 24 lots left over because you landlocked it. That's all I'm saying. I mean, that's all. I don't want to debate it. It is.
I know.
It is landlocked, unless you're going to go down Columbia. I don't want to, I got 3 minutes.
Mr. Snyder, you're way over your 3 minutes already.
So, so here's what I'm going to tell you, okay? My opinion is you send this thing back to legal legislative, number one. Number two, you plan how you want to get the public involved so we can have the time to ask the appropriate questions and not under the gun of 3 minutes, because I've spent a lot of time doing my homework and there's a lot of valid questions that I have that can't be answered. So that's all I'm asking you to do. Send it back to legal legislative and start all over. Thank you. Yeah, I know.
Dave Hassick. Name and address, please.
Dave Hassick, 3795 Dogwood Drive. Good evening, Commissioners, LVHM. I'm starting to know you guys. A couple of points and questions. In regards to their other 3 campuses, Muhlenberg, Cedar Crest, and Oaks, the average to get to a major highway, 2 traffic lights, and about a half a mile to either 33 at Oaks, 78 at Muhlenberg, 22 at Muhlenberg, and 78 at Cedar Crest. From here, this location, it would be 10 traffic lights to 22 west and 11 traffic lights to 22 east. Now, with that being said, you were going to work on the 4 traffic lights to synchronize those. What happens to the next 6? If all 4 here, we talked about the bottleneck earlier, I believe that bottleneck will happen after that 4th light.
Well, emergency vehicles have the ability to change lights. So
I understand that. I'm just talking regular traffic.
That's part of the PennDOT.
that's part of the PennDOT.
Okay,
TIF.
but the
See-
traffic is still part of us.
No, PennDOT is addressing the continuing lights. They are just talking about these 4 intersections
Correct.
and improving them. PennDOT took those off their list for
Okay.
some unbeknownst reason.
Okay,
But they're talking about additionally addressing those 4 lights. The additional lights southbound will be addressed by PennDOT.
so they just took those 4 off the
Yes.
north. Okay, understood. Was not aware of that. In regards to the helicopter path, from what I see there, where do the radio towers come in on the drawings? Because there's the old, I remember WSAN and KAP, they're way up there. Okay, fair enough. The other thing I would like to bring up, I brought up last week, and I want to bring up a different section of it, was the article in the Lehigh Valley News about the new Whitehall Farm subdivision, and some of the quotes that were brought up, because once this goes in, the tax revenue from that is gone. Okay, I mean, let's face it, it's non-taxable, it's done. Now, with that being said, last month, I don't know if it's Mr. or Mrs. Roche that is on the Planning Commission, said in regards to this subdivision, I quote, "We're generating a significant tax base." And this is regarding the new homes and residents that would result from the proposal. Again, I will add what I added last week. the mayor agreed with the sentiment, and I quote, "Because we are growing more slowly than we have in the past, when we had more revenue, it does a number of things for the community. It's a continuous, a continuation of building our community, and we believe we're building it strong with some great opportunities within our community," end quote. So it just seems that the board, or at least the planning commission, is aware that we need to generate revenue. The retail business is what it is. Online anymore, maybe we have to address some other areas. But being that this is one of the last areas that we can develop, I think that has to be considered. Thank you.
Janine Lobb.
Janine Lobb, 3852 Rosewood Lane. Exactly where are you looking to put the traffic light? That's something I didn't think of. You're not putting it at Rural Road, apparently. Would be between the cemetery and the home that sits on what I say, across the side from it?
Essentially across from the church.
Right, so there's a space between the cemetery, say this is the cemetery, and then there's a home here. So you're going to put it in that segment that's there. Okay, my other concern is, obviously, it'll be parking lots. It'll be a 24/7, 365 a day hospital. Obviously, residents are going to hear the sirens day and night, which we currently do not have. We are in a peaceful neighborhood. And I agree with everybody else. There's other emergency centers and hospitals within 11 to 15 mile radius. For one, I know you're trying to approach the traffic issue. I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily think it will take away from it. Trying to get out to go anywhere anymore, it's horrendous for us to get out. It's horrendous for us to try and cross the street to walk dogs. Rosewood and Dogwood are not the only ones involved. You have the community behind the church. You have the houses up in the circle, up in there. So you have more than just Rosewood and Dogwood that you are affecting. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm concerned for the quality of life. I'm concerned about home valuation, because people now buy because it's a peaceful neighborhood. It's an older neighborhood. I am in that demographic that you're saying is 65 plus. I don't say I'm going to go there quicker than I'm going to go somewhere else where one of my doctors is. So using that to say more people are going to get health care, I'm sorry, I beg to differ with you. So how high are the lights on the parking lot going to be? Is there going to be buffer to block them from what now is total darkness for us?
There'll be low lights aimed toward the hospital, not spraying excess light out to where the
So it's not going to be above what you're calling the Berman or whatever. Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Richard Love?
Oh, okay. Okay. I think it's Bob Wagner. Name and address, please.
Hello, this is Robert Wagner, 3440 West Columbia Street in Whitehall. Yeah, I'm impressed with all you guys because we kind of came up with this. That was my idea, more or less. I wanted to go to Rural Road, but that was my idea, and you guys came up with it, and you were listening to the neighbors about the crosswalk and all that other stuff, which is great. Couple things, when these people, and I understand everything that the neighbors are saying, and they have a point, and I do electrical work for a living. Those lights, they're not going to be shining in their backyards. That hospital's going to be down, I don't know how far, but pretty far. These people are going to look out their back windows into the back of the berm. They'll probably be looking right over that 4-story hospital. Am I wrong or right? Maybe.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing.
The grade drops.
Yeah, the grade drop's real heavy. The trail around here, I was going to mention that, but that's cool. 154 houses, and I hear Mr. Ginder, there's 600 available schools, but if you're doing 154 houses, you're probably going to do townhouses. You're on a heavy hill here. It's probably going to be townhouses. It's not going to be old people in ranch houses with 1-acre lots. You're going to probably have 2 kids. You're going to have 300, more or less, kids in school right away. And what's our most expensive taxes? School tax. Yeah, school tax. But yeah, and that, you know, whatever money you get, that 2,000, that's 2,000 for those 154. Yeah, that's something. But for what it's going to cost to police it and just all the other stuff, once these people get this, they're going to do what they do. Look at any hospital. Go to any hospital, anywhere. Even down at St. Luke's in Bethlehem. Everything is beautiful down there. It's not like what a builder's going to do, especially after the builder's done. He pulls out, and we're here with whatever we have at the end of, his term. But do we need that hospital in this area? You know, the other fellow that was talking about the motorcycle, when that guy got hit with his wife heading north on 145 up in Laurie's Station on Father's Day a couple years ago, that guy, no, he couldn't have been saved, right? We know he couldn't have been saved. He was hit head on with the FedEx truck or the UPS truck. But let's say it's something smaller than that. Just go over the guardrail or something, and the guy's in bad shape. He might not make it to Lehigh Valley. He's going to make it down here, though. He's like 5 minutes away. I mean, it's just something to think about. You know, there's not really a whole lot of good going for more.
You're assuming it's going to be staffed. Yeah, exactly.
Of course it's going to be staffed. Well, I mean, you could assume anything, Carol.
If we could please be civil.
Yeah, you could assume anything. But what hospital does anybody go to that is a piece of scrap or just not maintained? Anywhere, any place. And you got to bypass here. That's not going to happen. That's going to fix Mechanicsville Road for the most part. That's going to fix a lot. And if these guys fall through, that cornfield ain't going to be here one way or another. That cornfield, yeah, it'd be nice for it to be here. Are you going to keep the cornfield here if your plans fall through? No. Whatever.
Thank you.
Janice Wagner? I'm good. Brett Wagner? Brett Wagner? Joan Reese?
I'm fine. Somebody else can have my 3 minutes.
Jen Yenser?
Okay. I'm Jennifer Yenser, 3486 Ringer Road. So I live somewhere up in here. So I do take Mechanicsville Road every day. to and from-
Ma'am, can you please use the microphone?
Oh.
You could take it with you.
Take it with you.
So I take this road frequently, so I know how very busy it is. Also, I think one of my concerns too is with the school. You have a lot of newer drivers as well. So with the traffic and everything, and the crosswalks aren't necessarily going to be a definite, and so it's just a very busy road. And at the end of Mechanicsville Road, it ends at Mall Chalk, and that's a very hard left-hand turn to make because there is the corner there. My other question is I thought I read somewhere that you're going to have 400 staff that work there. So, I mean, that'll be 400 additional cars coming and going at different times. Plus the patients, it's almost like about 50 patients. There's like, what, 20-some beds you said? 24 beds. Right. And as far as the diagnostics, is it going to be MRIs and CAT scans?
I'll cover that. All the major diagnostics would be available. MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, ultrasound, mammography, that full suite would be available.
Okay, and I mean, that's good. We do have, like other people have pointed out, we do have a lot of healthcare that's nearby. So I'm not opposed to the hospital. I just don't think this really is the location that we would really need it to be at. Yeah, I mean, you could go further north, and this land was donated to you, so you could always donate it back as open space, which I know you won't do because obviously you would lose money. Right. But I mean, open space would be fantastic. I mean, there's so much changing here in Whitehall to begin with, and I just feel like the more and more construction that's been going on in this town, the town's losing its value. It's losing what it's like to be a town. It's more stores, it's more hospitals, it's just more building, and you would have the opportunity to give back to the community. I know you can't, though.
So there's a couple of pieces there.
And could that be a nice tax write-off as for you guys is to donate that as open space?
So we actually, in the gift from the Cassages, they were very clear. Their first desire was for this to be developed for healthcare.
But it's yours now.
Hang on. And if that wasn't the case, then to sell it to defray the cost of building what's now known as the Cassage Pavilion.
But it is yours now, and you do have that ability to make a nice donation to a community. And actually, that would be much more healthy to just have that open space. I knew you were kind of mocking cornfields, but there are some of us that actually do like cornfields.
I come from a family of
So,
on one side, we're not mocking.
right. So, and I think it's just healthier anyway. So, I mean, that's all I have to say.
We have to keep our comments to
Karen
ourselves.
Di Lorenzo. You have to,
Come up.
if you want to talk,
Sorry.
like I said, your name and address, please. Or you could have Vic. You could have Victor or Mike on the same line here, so.
There you go.
if
I
you
have
wanted them to
15
do it.
minutes, whatever. Yeah. Karen Di Lorenzo, 1110 West Highland Street, Whitehall. Does this pick up? Okay. So I'm at the south end. I'm at the opposite end of probably everyone in here. So I'm literally next to Allentown. So I'm at 15th and Highland, horrible intersection, traffic galore. All I see is traffic on MacArthur. Someone was saying how many lights there are. I go through all those lights to get my kids at school. So all I picture, you say helipad, that's trauma, right? What level trauma or what level hospital are you looking at?
So, at Cedar Crest, for instance, that's a level 1 trauma
Right.
center, you're right. A lot of helicopter activity, a lot of urgent visits by helicopter. This is for transport only. It's very, very much like Hecktown Oaks over in Lower Nazareth, which has a helipad. Hecktown Oaks had 9 helicopter visits in 1 year.
I'm not
It's
really
not a trauma center.
I'm not really interested in the helipad part. I'm interested in the ambulance part. We all know how many accidents have been on MacArthur Road lately. Yeah, you mentioned new drivers. They're not as defensive drivers as probably most of us in the room. And it's horrible. You're going to be adding more traffic. You're going to be adding not only the workers, now you've got patients, now you've got family of patients who, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm under stress, I'm not concentrating on the road right. You're not concentrating on the road. You're going to be causing more accidents as you come along. It's just, I'm sorry. Like, it's just, traffic is my concern, not even Mechanicsville Road. Somebody mentioned the school property and having a different exit. I have 2 kids at that campus. Going to one exit will not help. We need all those exits at the school. There's like 4 of them. Let me tell you, they all get backlogged. You can't block one of them. You need all of them for all those kids. So, I mean, that's my bit. Just traffic on MacArthur Road is going to be horrendous. It's already bad. It's going to be worse. So that's my bit. And they keep saying, well, this is our plan. What happens at hospitals? They expand. They're not telling you that part now. They expand. So that's my part. I know all we care about is taxes and bringing in money, but I care about the traffic.
Does Victor DiLorenzo want to talk? Name and address, please.
Victor DiLorenzo, 1110 West Island. So I was just gonna say, I go to that school, Dwight Middle School. So if I'm in class, it's not really a great idea to have ambulances going by around that area. You know, generally sirens don't really help with learning. And with the helipad there, you also don't want a helicopter passing over. So that's not really going to be something that the district would appreciate. And with all the extra roads that would be there, there'd be more traffic going by, causing the traffic going to the district to be backed up, which sometimes if you're in a rush, that can be even more annoying. So it's just overall not beneficial for the district to have this hospital here. That's all I had to say.
Victor, I just want to thank you. It's not easy to come up in front of a crowd and speak. For adults, it's not easy, and you just did it as a young man, as a student. And I'm really proud of you. That was great.
And would Mike DiLorenzo want to talk?
You know, if I did, I would just say what they both already said. I'm the dad, and I'm the one not talking. I feel bad.
Okay, and I know the first name's Mary, but it could be Link. Is it Link?
Yes, it is.
Okay, your name and address, please.
Mary Link,
Just
3913,
speak into the mic.
3913 Old Country Circle. Mr. Pidcock, you made changes that you seem to forget that, number one, I didn't want to bypass, but number two, there's no way to stop any kind of trucking. My concern is point number 2 with a light. Nobody really wants the light, but I could see Rural Road becoming, what's Lehigh Street and Ray Street in Catasauqua, where it gets backed up. I could see that getting backed up because of the light. Is there a way to make that a circle so that traffic keeps moving? Point number 2. To make the right lane go to the school and an inside or a left lane going around. A roundabout. And it would keep traffic moving instead of stopping. And I would suggest limiting trucks, because you know how the trucks fly down MacArthur Road and have caused accidents. I could see this becoming a bypass for them. And you got the school, you got the kids going to school, you have fellowship drivers coming out of fellowship. I could see that being a problem with the truckers that decide to take the bypass. And Wait till I'm done. I have 3 minutes. I grew up. I know Mr. Herrickle, a couple people of you know me where I have grown up. Whitehall condemned my land and took my playhouse. I lived at the corner right behind St. Luke's, the jug handle of MacArthur Road and Shot Avenue. So when we're talking, yes, traffic and whatever, you're going to be, and if you don't limit the trucks, you're going to be hearing air brakes. Those truckers are going to have to stop. They don't always stop on time, but let alone they're loud when they stop. And that's my concern. Between 2 and, where is he? The person that lives, these people, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it. So that's my concern now. Do you want to respond?
Yes, yes.
Stay up here, it's fun.
It's fun to disagree.
Right, right. The question about the circle's an interesting one. So I wouldn't say no, we hadn't thought about that.
If you don't, it's going to back up Earl Road.
No, I understand.
And it might even slow down the truckers.
Yeah.
Because it would be harder for them.
The ability to prohibit trucks is not something we have. So PennDOT is the unique authority on that, and they do it rarely. So I wouldn't mislead you that there's any likelihood that that would happen. I understand the air brakes are noisy. They are. They are. I couldn't encourage you that we're able to eliminate trucks. Of course, the trucks we'd be trying to eliminate would then continue on Mechanicsville Road, as they no doubt do now.
Actually, there's no trucks because they can't make that turn now. This turn here. They have a hard time making this turn, but if you're going to somehow direct traffic to that area, I would hope that it would be no trucks.
Yeah.
No trucks.
We're happy to explore it. I understand the sentiment. I don't want to be overly encouraging that that's likely. Happy to look. You're absolutely right that a bypass up here brings traffic behind these folks that certainly they don't see now. The future use of the property is either a residential development or it's something like this. We prefer this. Either we'll have traffic. This certainly brings traffic where it's quiet now. There is no way to make Mechanicsville Road better except by taking traffic off of Mechanicsville Road. There is no way to do it. Excuse me just a second, sir. Somehow it has to be intercepted and it has to be redirected. And I appreciate, is it better to leave all the traffic out of Mechanicsville Road so that there is less traffic back here? Or is it better to do this so that the traffic on Mechanicsville Road between here and here is significantly reduced? That's really the question that hangs in the balance. And Victor, I appreciated your question. Very insightful. I could not have done that as a middle schooler. My hat's off to you. The fact of the matter is that the stacking from Mechanicsville and 145 goes all the way past the third driveway. By our observation, often, you live with this, I don't, but often it probably happens routinely. That will not change. That will not change unless traffic is taken off of Mechanicsville Road. It's that simple.
And I'm not saying that that is bad, but I'm saying limit the trucks somehow.
Yeah, no,
Get PennDOT to limit the trucks because not just the noise, it's going to create problems.
if we can, we will. I don't want to mislead you that it's really within our power.
Take that into consideration.
Thank you. Okay, we're done with the list. Is there anyone else? Okay. If you could please come up, identify yourself, name and address, please.
Pat Butts, 3784 Dogwood Drive. I have concerns here about this traffic light. What happens at the traffic light? It backs up this way. We already have a traffic light on MacArthur Road that's backing out this way. What happens to us on Dogwood and Rosewood? We can't get out. And now the traffic lights are going to keep us in there more. Hospital. We're going to have trucks. Nobody has discussed distribution. We got air product trucks coming in for the oxygen. We got distribution for cafeteria, any kind of supplies. Trucks, trucks, trucks. I know this. I work for the network. And medical waste. Thank you.
Sir, please come up and identify yourself, name and address.
Terry Bowser, 5169 Garfield Avenue, Whitehall, PA. I have a question and a concern. I hear so much about this traffic light here at number 2, and living here for many years, I know most of this traffic coming out will take Rural Road anyway. So we'll end up having a traffic light at Rural Road. Now, my question is, we initially had a road plan for this area where Bringer Road was connected. A road came up and made an intersection with Rural Road, eliminating light number 2 and a direct crossover to Rural Road, which 70% of the traffic takes. What happened to that original plan? It seemed a lot better than what we're presenting right now. Anybody have an answer?
I questioned that the meeting last week at the workshop. Our engineer, Frank Cork, had spent some time when your property was rearranged and stuff to make future provisions to deal with some of that traffic from development in there, and you know, basically told it wasn't feasible and there was no interest in it.
May I respond, sir?
Yes.
I don't want to cut you off. Do you have other questions?
Respond.
Okay. We've looked at that carefully because the township originally expected, and maybe still does, that an extension to the north would happen there. And in fact, you can't easily see it on here, but there is available right-of-way that goes to the north. Right. You did?
Yes, I did.
Okay, you did. The problem with connecting there, it's not threading the needle. It's that, and you know it better than I do, there are many homes very close to the road in that segment of Mechanicsville Road. Let me just see this through. We've studied the geometry of what would need to happen there, which will need a left turn lane, so the road is wider than it is now. Okay, so far? As the road gets wider, it will affect 14 homes. 14 homes along Mechanicsville Road. 3 of them would have to go.
I don't see, knowing where I laid that out, for a left, a straight, and a right-hand turn, and the entrance going in, I mean, we spent a lot of time and a lot of money
Yeah.
to design that to meet the needs of the township.
I am certain of it. I am certain of it because in some ways it would be easier, except the idea of approaching the 3 homes and saying, you'll have to move.
Which 3 homes would have to be?
I don't have that with me.
Well,
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't mean the analysis wasn't done, and I'm happy to show it to you. But it's been studied carefully. So there is right-of-way. You're right. There is right-of-way through to the north. The problem isn't that right-of-way. The problem is there is not enough right-of-way along Mechanicsville to accept the widened 3-lane road.
3-lane road widened, one going straight, which is rural road.
No, I'm sorry. 3 lanes in Mechanicsville Road.
Why would I need 3 lanes?
Because there needs to be a left turn lane. So there is a through lane eastbound.
With a traffic light there?
No, not with a traffic light.
Okay, but that's the cure. Instead of having a traffic light here, install a traffic light here. And we don't need 3 lanes on Mechanicsville Road. And we don't have to eliminate any homes. We have a traffic light, give a left-hand turn, right, and through.
Yeah. The left turn lane, sir, is still needed, even with a signal.
All right, I'll accept your analysis, but
I'm happy to show it to you, but it isn't as though it's been overlooked.
there's so many traffic lights in town that don't have a left-hand turn, and I don't know why one would be required there.
You know, the answer to that, and that's a good question, the answer to that is because there's so much volume on Mechanicsville.
So the cure to that is creating another traffic light and making a left-hand turn across 2 lanes of traffic? Sorry.
Anyone else? Please come up, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Mike Hart, 3827 Rosewood Lane, Whitehall. And I ain't got a lot against this. You know about bypass is if it's anything like the bypass that was on Hamilton, where it's supposed to alleviate traffic. Well, I worked at Seoka, and years before that it was Becker, and I worked then, so I'd been there quite a while. And the bypass was supposed to alleviate all that traffic. Still, if it's any time near 7, 2, 5, anything like that, it still takes me 10 minutes to get out of Seoka onto Hamilton. So the bypass did not work there. I mean, it did a lot for just going through, but for local traffic, we're still pretty swamped.
Yeah, that's very choppy.
Yes, so I'm not convinced that what I'm afraid of is because I live right here. I'm going to have traffic this way, and I'm just going to be swamped with traffic. That's my concern. Because there's people still going to go this way. I don't know. I don't know. To me, the bypass does everything it's supposed to do. It didn't help traffic. Sometimes I think traffic increased at that area. So that's all. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? One more. Please come up, sir, state your name and address. Thank you.
Charlie Toy, 3940 Mechanicsville. We're 2 houses over on the south side of Mechanicsville by Rural Road. It's in my front yard. I think it's more than a vegetation problem. At times, school, back and forth into Aladown, that's a corridor from 15th Street, Machunk, to Mechanicsville, right-hand turn. And also the turning radius there is terrible. That intersection between the words you hear, the fingers that are flying, and the accidents there are terrible. Scott, it's more than just a vegetation problem.
And that may be, and if there's a radius of the turn to be adjusted.
Come over and have coffee.
Okay.
Anyone else? One quick comment there. Please come up. Sorry. We have to know who's speaking.
I'm sorry. Pat Butts, Dogwood Drive. Why is it so important to have the hospital here? We don't have enough staff for the facilities that we have. Where are you going to get the staff for this?
That's not an engineering question.
Where are you going to get the staff?
Remember, there's a lead time to a project like this. And you look at the overall plans, the amount of people who we have recruited and are recruiting, and the number of new people who are coming in terms of the recruits. By the time this is up, we will be in an overall better place on staffing. So that's the part that we're, in terms of how we're looking at it and working with it. I was in a meeting this morning with some very specific activities related to that. So we're not going to open something that isn't staffed properly and is unsafe. That's just not in the cards. A couple of other pieces in terms of some questions that have come up. We work with EMS. We talked about this Thursday over at Fellowship. We work with EMS in terms of the proximity to hospitals where they have the sirens on, and as it may seem a little counterintuitive, the closer they get to a facility, the higher the probability, unless someone is in a really critical condition, they'll turn the sirens off. You'll see that at Muhlenberg, you'll see that at Hecktown, you'll see that at Cedar Crest. You might see someone, an ambulance coming down 78 at Cedar Crest. As it approaches the Cedar Crest exit, the siren is off. And so there's a way to work with EMS to manage that. The other piece is relative to taxes and other things that we will do in a community. We do quite a bit in the communities where we're located in terms of providing the township employee health, physicals, anything that might happen relative to everything from flu shots to anything that happens with first responders, township staff. So we do connect and do provide those services as a part of being a member of the community. If I might, I know you still have conversation you need to have amongst yourselves. We appreciate the opportunity. We appreciate that you moved the topic up on the agenda greatly. We appreciate the engagement, continuation of the conversations, and we look forward, if we're permitted, to continuing the discussion to get to a good result for everyone. Thank you.
So you're concluding your presentation tonight?
That concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you. And wait for Mr. Sloniger to return from his rest stop.
He gave me a little, Jody Mismer, 3367 Kings Road. What do you do next now?
What I'm going to do is ask for a motion to move this forward.
Cool, thank you.
Can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
Okay.
Please identify yourself.
Sure. Jen Yenser, 3486 Ringer Road. My other question is I know that this land has been donated to you, and since Lehigh Valley Hospital has so much money, have you thought about the location of where the Sears is? You have an empty building, you have plenty of parking, you're very close to 22, there's 3 lanes on either side. I think it would work better there. And it's away from the school, and it's away from a very, very rural road.
We're trying to be closer to more neighborhoods.
You're very still close. You're only like 2 minutes down the road.
Some of the traffic issues.
And then my other thought is too, So my daughter's been doing some work over in the emergency department at Muhlenberg. And she's been telling me that a large majority of the patients that they seem to have coming in are people that are underinsured. Obviously, if you don't have insurance, you're not going to go to the emergency centers here because,
Ma'am, we can't discuss.
okay, those kinds of things.
We can't discuss
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. But anyway, that was my other thought.
They concluded their presentation.
Okay, Mr. Sloniger is present. Any comments from the board? Do I have a motion to move Lehigh Valley's proposal forward?
No, the reason I ask is because Mr. Snyder
Yes.
requested it be sent to L&L.
I will ask all
We
the
have
questions then.
L&L.
Do I have a motion to forward this to L&L? I have a motion. Do I have a second? No second? L&L is not going to happen. Do I have a motion to send this on to the Planning Commission?
So moved.
Mr. Roman, do I have a second?
I have a second.
Mr. Warren, second. Poll the board.
Mr. Roman? Yes. Mr. Warren?
Aye.
Mr. Ginder? No. Mr. Fisher?
Nay.
Mr. Attia?
No.
Commissioner Sloniker, no, and President Marks.
No.
Okay, that one loses out. 5-2. Then it would go to the Board of Commissioners with the other one. If we're not, with the three things that I was.
Right. I'm sorry, gentlemen, but you are unsuccessful with your proposal. Mr. Fisher would like to make a comment.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I just want to say again, as I said last month, thank you all for, coming out and taking part in the civic process. As I said last month, this is not the only thing that goes on in Whitehall. There are many other boards, commissions, and volunteer activities we're looking for, and we're looking for people like you. So please consider coming out and being more active with some of the other things we have going on in the township.
Why have you turned us down? What was the reason? We should be able to know that.
My reason for voting no is very simple. I don't believe what they propose belongs, the overlay district. I don't believe that belongs to change the zoning there.
You don't want a hospital there?
No.
You want houses there?
I prefer to see what it's zoned for right now.
So wrong.
Folks, I'd like you to stay here too because we have an open space proposal that I'd like to bring forward at the end of the meeting. We had an opportunity to gain open space up in the northern part of Egypt. Some members said no more open space. So every piece of farmland in Whitehall Township is scheduled to be developed. Tonight we're going to hear another proposal for 43 homes with no traffic impact fees going to the township, not a penny. So we don't have a vision.
Why did everybody else say no? What, do you all not want a hospital in the backyard? What is your reason?
What everybody brought up about Mechanicsville Road, it has to be workable. And right now, they keep on saying this, that, and whatnot, but nobody said, they did not come through with, it's gonna alleviate the traffic for the majority of people in there as long as they don't do something with the school buses and the regular traffic that's going there. That's my concern.
The rest of you?
They don't have to actually give a reason.
Well,
I'm
it
just
would be
saying,
nice.
yeah, and again, if they want to.
I'll tell you why I voted to move it on, to get another opinion from a different board.
Sure.
We've been recycling this project for, how many months between legal and legislative, the same people hearing it, and we've been toying with it. So we heard from you. That's the only reason why it's not a pass to change the zoning, it's not a pass to approve the overlay. The pass is to give it another, and we haven't heard from our engineer at all, at least recently, regarding this.
I have a question that you approved to move it on. Does
Yes.
that mean it could come back in the future?
It has to come back to the Board of Commissioners for approval. It's just going to another board.
Yes, this plan can be reconstituted by Lehigh Valley. They could come in front of us in the future with a reconstituted plan. We could go through the same process and then deliberate and decide to move a motion forward. So this isn't necessarily done, it's just a very complicated process. And, I mean, to answer your question, this is a very complicated, there's a lot of moving pieces here, and there's much more than meets the eye. The problem I have with the plan, I'm not opposed to hospitals, certainly not. I think hospitals are wonderful. You know, they're the fabric of communities. But yet, in the same token, it's the conditional uses in the future for Phase 2 that there's a lot of unknowns. And you lose a certain point of control when, for instance, if we allowed this overlay at this point without knowing what future uses are going to be put on this property.
So if they gave you an example of what Phase 2 would be, you would listen?
We asked many questions for over a year in legal legislative and this board in a public setting. And don't get me wrong, Lehigh Valley was very good, their presentations were very good, but there's still a lot of unknowns. And until I'm satisfied and I'm confident that those unknowns are going to be beneficial to Whitehall Township, I cannot consciously vote to move this forward. And that's coming from the heart.
If I could just make a comment, I just want to say why I voted in favor. Number one, there are many options for this property. We know it could be all residential, we could know it could be a hospital, or it could be nothing. But I think in the overall scheme of things, my view is that eventually there's going to be a need for this hospital, and eventually we would like to have our input in how it's put together. And I think the Lehigh Valley Hospital demonstrated they want to be good neighbors. They're bending over backwards to put in a bypass or maybe even a roundabout. They've done everything possible to accommodate everyone. Now, we're not going to make everyone happy, and we're not going to make everyone upset, but I believe there's a happy medium ground that we could meet on. And I just thought it would be in our best interest to at least go to the next step and develop this process rather than what Commissioner Warren said, rehashing the same story over and over and never getting anywhere. So that's why I voted yes.
They have to develop this whole thing, and they're not going to get a chance to do that in this setting, you know?
That's not necessarily true.
They're given a chance.
Well, you've been at it now a year, so.
Well, yes and no, but publicly, we've been at it for a couple months. Yes, you're correct in stating we've been at it for more than a year in legal and legislative. Like I said, I want to caution everyone here. There's a lot of unknowns here that could happen Phase 2 down the road. There's an adjoining property that another system owns. And you have to keep in mind, once you allow certain things, you may have to allow certain things in the future. So keep that in mind.
Well, they have to come before the board and do the same thing?
They do, they do. But it's, you know, it's that old mantra.
And they told you, we changed the plans from the last time they came in. They have the
neighbors.
they had, no, that's not necessarily the case. They have the chance to go ahead and bring other things in here that would make it more feasible for different members on the board. It's not just like, oh, this is it, we're done with it completely, forget it.
They're just at the beginning of their planning.
And that's what I just said. They can come in with a revised, another plan, just like they did with the first one to the second one. They're allowed to do 10 if they wanted to. It depends upon how we think it's going to impact our community and what we feel is best for the community.
Well, that's not necessarily happening either. I mean, you're thinking broadly. At this point, what's not happening is Lehigh Valley's proposal isn't moving forward at this point. It doesn't necessarily mean anything other than this isn't moving forward. So,
I think they've shown they want to go to good neighbor.
The-
You know, by leaving that tree line up, that won't happen with homes.
You're not the only neighbor. Like, you're not
Let's,
yeah, let's keep this civil now. She asked, understood. Let's keep this civil.
It can be developed by tomorrow, use by right, with the right plan. And the question I have, and I'm not, I don't know if I think I know the answer. The other proposal we're listening to tonight does not give traffic impact fees. It's not a traffic impact fee district. Is this parcel in a traffic impact fee district? Yes. It is?
Yes. This parcel?
Yes. And so the other one on the opposite side of Lehigh Street is not. So 43 residents going eastward is not a traffic impact fee.
That was the question I had. Is it or is it not?
It is.
The hospital area, this property is in the traffic impact zone.
So if you explain to the residents, what that means is $990 for every time traffic goes through and count. If there is 500 cars, there's a mathematical arrangement that we would get. It's a long story, it's not a simple 1, 2, 3 answer.
But here's the end of the story, if you really want to know.
Yes.
If it were 154 homes, your impact fee is $811 and change per home, per trip, which is per home.
It's about 1,000.
$1104.75.
What's the traffic signal cost?
Very good. So the point is, let's call it $150,000. If you apply your traffic impact fee ordinance to our HOC, the traffic impact fee is in excess of $750,000.
That's fair.
It's fair, it's nowhere close, it's 750,000 compared to 150,000. But that's how your traffic impact fee would be applied.
Mrs. Rackes, did you have a comment? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
All right, with that being said,
Can I just ask a real
we're going to
quick
move on.
question?
Yes,
If it's
absolutely.
allowed. I'm trying. I'll cheat, I'll just sit down. Appreciate your time, genuinely. I know we've been at this for a really long time, so genuinely appreciate it. Is there any guidance? Obviously, we've come back Rev 1, Round 1, and Round 2. I know we had gotten feedback the last time where we're not going to provide guidance. Just asking, based on our changes, it seemed like some things were responded to, some other things were not. Is there any guidance as far as if there was a hospital to be successful, are there key ingredients that you're looking for us to be successful?
We can't do that, Mr. Quay. We can't comment or make any recommendations.
Understood.
That's on you.
It's not our position to do the developer's job. We cannot guide people to that. The developer's got to make their proposals, and we go from there.
Understood. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I just want to thank your team for, to me, presenting things in a nice way. I mean, you come to us with what information you had, and I appreciated everything you're doing. I'm hoping that you can come back another time with even better things. And you can't be much nicer, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. We're going to move on here. Public hearing and voting on ordinances.
Okay, where are we at here?
Yeah, I am. Okay. Easy, easy. I know, I'm
Right, Joe.
What time is it?
Okay. Oh, wow. Public hearing and voting on ordinances. Bill number 26-2022. Second hearing, an ordinance authorizing the township mayor to accept a deed of dedication from Eberhart Properties LLC along Eberhart Road for the purpose of stormwater easement. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Roman?
Yes.
And President Marks.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 27-2022, second hearing, an ordinance authorizing the township mayor to accept a deed of dedication from St. John's Union Cemetery Association along 7th Street for the purpose of stormwater easement. Do I have a motion?
I'll move Fisher.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Fisher? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Roman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
And President Marks.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 28-2022, second hearing, an ordinance authorizing the township mayor to accept a deed of dedication from Jordan Gates Investment Group, LP, along Oakwood Drive for the purpose of right-of-way, future road construction, and utility connections. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second Fisher.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor?
I just have one.
Yes, please come up.
You have to come up,
Name,
identify
rank, and
yourself,
serial number.
and your address, please.
Jody Mismer, 3367 Kings Road. I think it's going to be really great, because I live right up here, and I look forward to seeing this signage, because I think people really need it. They do get lost, so I look forward to it. Just wanted to say that.
Great, thank you. Can you please poll the board?
Commissioner's comment? This is for the
I-
signage.
No.
This is for bill number 3, number 3.
Word Gates Investment.
All right. She said about signage, I thought.
Okay, no, true.
I got
Oh, I skipped down one. Sorry. Put it to the next one.
No problem. Okay, Commissioner Ginder.
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Roman. Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Warren.
Aye.
Commissioner Attia.
Yes.
And President Marks.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 29-2022, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for installation, signs, and wall lettering for the municipal complex in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have any comments? Do I have a
I'll
motion?
make that motion, Warren.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You, Mr. Roman?
Yes. Any comments by the board?
The front sign, I brought it up last meeting, and you said that we'll try to obscure that electrical panel box. So if it's not done as part of this project, if we can do something in-house
Yeah,
after the fact.
It wouldn't be done as part of this project. Our guys will take care
It looks great, great plan, and thanks for your effort putting it together.
I couldn't agree more. I've been asking for this for quite a long time. It's a municipal complex. It clearly needs to be marked so our citizens know where they're going. But I appreciate the work you've done, Jack. I think the flow is going to work much better for us. You know, the traffic flow, it's going to be much user-friendly, and thank you.
And I think just on the telling us where to go for the police if you need them in an emergency and you're driving, it's much needed, so.
Any comments from the floor? Yours were heard. Please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Roman?
Yes.
Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniger, aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 30-2022, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for a 5-year lease of 4 Canon copiers for the Whitehall Township Municipal Building in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Attia,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Roman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye, and President Marks.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Public hearing and voting on resolutions. Resolution number 3212, a resolution conditionally approving the major subdivision land development plan of Whitehall Farms located at 3855 Lehigh Street and 3305 Municipal Drive, Whitehall Index number 1979-21. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments from the board?
Frank, will this have the black fence over the detention?
That's in the revised resolution.
Right.
Yep.
I didn't get to
Already
read
talked-
all the details.
The engineering's gonna put on the detail plan as well.
All right, great.
Frank, all the Ts are crossed, the Is are dotted?
Yes,
Okay.
we've gone through this quite a bit, back and forth with the engineering team, and they've done a great job responding. And, you know, we've got the grading where we want it, there's gotta be some nice lots in there.
And and I do want to have it conditioned that whether it's this owner or the next developer, that in the near term, that blockage is dealt with on,
That's in there. I
Copple
moved that
Creek.
in. We talked about that last.
but I don't want it put on the homeowners.
Yeah, it's in.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other comments from the
I mean,
board?
homeowners going in, when they buy the home, it should be open channel. In the future, it is the responsibility
It's
of
the
the homeowners.
responsibility of the homeowners.
Yes.
They moved forward what we discussed last week that was kind of left out.
Right, thank you.
Any
The deal with the, is it basketball court that was split up, that, everything's all covered in,
Yes, that portion that goes over the property line, or proposed property line, that's being removed on that small triangular section. And then also on the lot that has the majority of the court, that's actually gonna be cut back 3 feet from the proposed property line, so that meets current setbacks.
Any more comments from the board? Any comments from the floor?
One more comment for me. When they're redoing the area that buffers Arlington Knolls, if they can be very cautious on whatever trees they can leave, they'll keep.
We did a survey and submitted that showing the specimen trees that are in there. The ones that are less desirable, we'll probably wind up taking down because of the ash borer. But all the trees that are gonna be along that way will be inspected with our team, so they're preserved.
The residents that were here, we're hoping that there would be some buffer remaining or new buffer planted.
Whatever's left, whatever we can save, we're gonna save.
Please poll. I asked.
okay.
No
Commissioner
comments.
Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Attia,
Yes.
Commissioner Roman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
feedback. It sounds like you're answering twice when I hear it.
Aye.
Okay.
He gets one vote.
Commissioner, I did Roman,
I don't know,
we got you, Warren? And President Marks.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3215, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and Whitehall Township to enter into a stipulation and settlement agreement regarding stormwater plans with 4154 Roosevelt Street LLC. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Marks? if I
Yes.
may, We're not ready for this tonight.
So tabled?
Yes, please.
Okay. Resolution number 3215 has been tabled for legal and engineering to resolve some issues. Okay, moving on. Other was about the motion for Lehigh Valley Health Network proposed zoning amendment. I think we've covered all that, so I'm
I
gonna.
would like to, during our workshop meeting, we were presented a proposal to preserve some Class 1 soil, open space, farmland in the northern part of the township. The next step would be to talk with the property owner and potentially get an appraisal. And Lehigh County Conservation Department said it would cost $1,700 for the proposal to do the appraisal, to see what the land's value is for redevelopment and preserving as farmland. I would like to make the motion that we go ahead with give the mayor the authority to do the due diligence, talk to the land developer, and then proceed with a proposal to do the appraisal. Recognizing that the township might be responsible for a certain share of that acquisition to preserve it in perpetuity, but I would like us to research the possibility of applying for a C2P2 grant to offset the township's costs. There's a cost of preserving it, but there's also a cost of maintaining open roads and new development, so.
I was under the impression, maybe I misheard, but I was under the impression when the lady spoke to us last week, that I'm gonna use the word, the farmer
Yes.
would pay for the was willing to pay for the.
No, she indicated that it was on
Did I
us.
misunderstand that?
Yes, you did.
I mean, $1,700 would be a showstopper. There's already one resident that offered to pay for that, but I don't think we should take in residents' dollars to do something like that.
Who offered to pay for it?
I would like that person decide if they want to.
I don't want to win on.
I did. I offered to pay for it.
You offered to pay for it? Well, thank you.
Can I just add some information? Is that okay?
Go ahead. Yep. Name and address, please.
Karen Pashefko, 3303 Musselman. When my husband and I lived in Emmaus, before we moved here, there was a 33-acre property at the base of South Mountain bordering our neighborhood. And we tried for many, many years, we worked with Conservancy to try to either preserve the land or whatever, and it came down to the appraisal. The Conservancy needed the money to pay for the appraisal. And my husband and I put the money up for the appraisal, and that was the first step in preserving the land. And today that land is preserved. Because until you have that hard number, the appraisal, you don't really know what it's worth. And unless you do the appraisal, you're not going to save the land. So $1,700 is really inexpensive, truthfully, compared to what we paid in Emmaus. So maybe my dad will chip some money in. And if, you know, if you don't want to, I'm just offering. It's just an offer.
Thank you. Thank you. I would just like to agree with Commissioner Warren. I think it's at least worth investigating, and then we can make a decision later.
Would you like to second this, Mr. Fisher?
I will make a second on this.
Okay.
I would like to know some of the mechanics of how this would be, how do we pay for this? I know it's just $1,700, but at what fund?
Well, we gotta ask Jack, do we have the 1,700?
I have money on my budget to cover it in this year's budget.
Okay, Mr. Warren made the motion. Mr. Fisher seconded the motion.
I just want to say, too, this isn't necessarily that I would go forward with the final purchase. This is just an information gathering exercise.
This is just a motion to approve the appraisal.
Yes.
That's all this is
Yes.
at this point. Okay.
And I would ask the mayor communicate with Lehigh County that if it seems like it's viable, that we get the ball, it's a full court press to get state money, which has been offered to other communities, to pay for the township portion of it.
Right. You've mentioned this before.
Any more comments?
I just want to make a quick comment. I'm all in favor of open space wherever we can find it, especially since this will be the first one in Whitehall Township. I'd like to see something like this go through, so I'm in favor.
Any other comments?
Mr. Snyder.
I did. I'll do it again. Any comments from the floor?
3 minutes.
Ken Snyder, 4272 Abigail Lane. There was a lot of comments that were going to be raised about the hospital and the R2 zones and different things like that. I've told you early in the year that I believe that this township is at a tipping point. The tipping point exists with our commercial, and it also exists with our residential. You know, I'm a builder and I'm a developer. The hospital has been very good to me with clients transferring in. A lot of doctors and professional people have built homes in the Lehigh County area. Nazareth, Parkland, North Whitehall, Northwestern, and Upper Saucon. Not one of my clients were able to build a house in Whitehall Township because there's no land to build it. There's no product like that available in this township to do it. The end result is that as our generation is getting older, we do not have any development of this type of product in our township. And if you look at the hospital and you look at maybe open space, we have a lot of open space that if you sat on the comprehensive plan for what's the one, I'm drawing a blank, comprehensive plan for recreation, you'll find that we have space that we can't even take care of now. It's a fact. Our residential, our recreational is robbing our budget left and right, and it is. And that was discussed in that arrangement. And as much as you want to do this for purposes of finding what you can do, I'm fine with that if that's what you want to do. But I got to tell you that this township has lost a lot of opportunities to get some different type of housing because there's a lack of land that's available. The hospital parcel is an R2 zone, half acre. What's got me perplexed about that is that parcel, as much as I maybe would want to see a hospital, and what bothers me about the process, they didn't tell you that it will generate $1.4 million in